Hello everybody and welcome to this short Christingle service. We're going to start by making our Christingle. Now, if you've been delivered a little package from one of your youth group leaders, inside it you should find an orange, a piece of tin foil, 4 cocktail sticks, a piece of red ribbon. You should also find on a piece of paper a little pin, that type of pin. Should find a candle and a bag of dolly mixtures. If you aren't one of the children that's received one of our packages, then I should get your mum or your dad or whoever's at home to get some of these things for you if they're about. Now, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put a cut in your orange. Now, I suggest you get an adult to do this for you. I've got Peter here with me today, so that's not a problem. The one thing you need to do is to decide which way your orange rolls. If I put mine that way, it rolls about. But if I put where the pit was there, it sits still. And what your grown-up is going to need to do for you is to cut a cross in the top of your Christingle. We'll put the knife well out of the way so I don't cut myself. And the first thing you're going to do is put your piece of ribbon round. So you get your pin handy and you wrap your ribbon round the middle of your orange. And you pop the pin in to keep it there, if it'll stay. This is a bit difficult, it's a bit fiddly, but we shan't worry about it. Just keep trying till we get it right. Lovely, there we go. And the next thing we're going to do is get our 4 cocktail sticks, open our bag of dolly mixtures. No, we're not going to eat them just yet. What we're going to do is we're going to put a couple. Now, some of these are really rather hard, so you might need help doing this. Okay, so you're going to put a couple of dolly mixtures on each, or as many as you can get on. If you've got raisins or something else you prefer, then you can put those on. And I don't think my hard dolly mixtures are going to work. And my ribbon really doesn't want to stay on. Like I say, you've got to just keep trying until you get it right. So let's see if this dolly mixture will stay on. Oh, it's very hard. There we go. And we'll put one of the jellies on, but we'll put it on the other way round this time. Oh, you might need to put your dolly mixtures somewhere warm before you do this. Okay, there's 1, 2. There's a 3rd one coming on. Whoa, there we go. Lovely. And a jelly. Okay. Woo, and they're trying to escape today. Oh, that one's not doing any good. I tell you what, we'll just leave the jelly on that one. And we'll put a jelly on the 4th one here. But you get the idea. You find something that you can put on your cocktail sticks that you like. Now, we'll save those for later. We shan't eat those now. The last thing we're going to do is get our piece of tin foil and our candle. And we're going to pop it over the end. And we're going to just fold it around the bottom of the candle and fold out the top bit. When we light our Christingles later on, this will stop the wax getting on your fingers. And we're going to pop it into our orange. And there we have a Christingle. Now, why do we do Christingles? Well, these were thought of many, many years ago, way before you were born, by the church in Moravia. And it was a way of explaining Jesus and God and Christmas to people who'd never heard of them before. So they said, the orange is the world. This is the world God created. The red ribbon round the middle for us here is blood. We've all got red blood inside us. It doesn't matter whether we live in Africa, the North Pole, the South Pole, America, or in Russia, or anywhere else. We've all got red blood inside us. And it's the thing that connects us as human beings. Because you know, if you're poorly, you can go to the hospital, and if they need to do an operation, they will do a blood transfusion. And people donate blood so that people can have surgery. And this little pin, this tiny little pin here, this represents you. You're part of this river of humankind that's all over the world. And our light here, our candle, represents Jesus, because that's what Christmas is all about. It's all about the birth of a man who is known as a prophet, a Messiah, the Son of God in some places, and also as the light of the world. And he brought a message from God saying, let there be peace, believe in God, follow his words, and there'll be peace all over the world. So who was this Jesus? You may or may not have heard about him before. You may or may not know anything about him. Well, we find out about him from something called the Holy Bible. Now, this is a big one that was used in church many years ago. We don't use it anymore because it's too heavy to hold, but in there is something called the New Testament. And the New Testament is all about Jesus and the message he brought from God for us. This is my Bible. This is the one we used at university. And I've made notes in it during my lessons there, because you can go and study the Bible at university. It tells you all about them, what went on. But it's difficult to understand if you're young. So they do things like this, the Children's Bible, which has lots of pictures in, as well as the story in easy language you can understand. There are lots and lots of different types of Bibles. This is one that a society called the Gideon Society did for our Boys Brigade company here, and Wendy and David very kindly brought these to our company. And it's just a little one, and it's very small, so I'll need my reading glasses for this. But this is just the New Testament, and I can read about Jesus in all of these books here. But do you know what my favourite book is at Christmas? This is my favourite book at Christmas. It's called The Lion Storyteller Christmas Book, and it's got the story of Jesus, but it's also got the story of how the stories of Jesus were told around the world, because not everybody speaks the same language, not everybody understands things the same way. So the stories of Jesus, the tales of his life and his message from God were told in many different stories. And we're going to hear a couple of those stories today. So what is this story of Jesus? What happened at Christmas? Well, we don't actually know when Jesus was born, and he was born in a very hot and sunny land. But this is the way we tell the story in the Western world, in the Northern Hemisphere, because of course it's winter time. And this is a festival of light. It's all about the light coming into the world. So basically, once upon a time, there was a lady called Mary and a man called Joseph. And Mary was told by an angel that she was going to have a baby and his name would be Jesus. And Joseph stood by Mary, and they were all getting ready for the birth of the baby when the Romans, who had invaded the land where they lived, which we know as Israel now, but was known as Palestine in those days, the Romans said, "We need to count the lot of you. You've got to go to the town where the husband was born, where your male family came from." So for Joseph, this was Bethlehem. Well, they lived in Nazareth, and Nazareth was quite away from Bethlehem. So they set off with Mary on a donkey, expecting baby Jesus and Joseph. And of course it was very busy. It's a bit like standing outside Primark at the moment. There were queues everywhere waiting to be counted. And of course you couldn't get there in a motor vehicle because they didn't exist then. So you either walked or you had a camel, a horse or a donkey. And so they had to stay in Bethlehem. Well, there was no room anywhere. They went round knocking on the doors and nobody could give them any room. But eventually one keeper said, well, I've no room in the actual inn. Now an inn is a bit like a hotel. But I have got a stable where you could sleep. It'll be warmer than sleeping outside and it'll give you some protection, and I can see the lady's expecting a baby any minute now. So Joseph and Mary went to the stable. So there we go. There's Mary and her husband Joseph in the stable. And it was there, the story goes, that Jesus was born. Now in England, certainly here, we don't put the baby in the manger until after midnight on Christmas Eve, but we're going to pop him in there now. So the baby was born. And guess who else was there in the stable? Well, the animals were still there, because in those days, your animals were in one half of your house and you were in the other. And it was the way they all lived. So you might hear the words the ox and the ass. And the angel went about, because there was a big star in the sky and people wondered what it was at that time. And the angels appeared to shepherds on the hills. And they said, don't be afraid, but there's a Messiah, a king has been born, and you'll find him in Bethlehem underneath the star. And so the shepherds came to look at the king and to see what all the fuss was about, and possibly to worship him. And they brought a lamb, so the story goes, or a sheep there. Now the star was in the heavens all over the place over there. And eventually some wise men in the east saw it and wondered what it was. And they saw that it was moving slowly west from where they lived. So they thought, we'll follow it and see what happens. Well, we don't know how many wise men there were. We don't know if they arrived at the same time as the shepherds, or the same week, or the same year even. Some people seem to think that it could have been as many as 2 years later. But traditionally, there are 3 wise men who bring gifts to the baby Jesus. And those gifts were gold. We all know what gold is. It's a precious metal and it's worth money. Frankincense, which is what they used in holy places to scent the air, and it's very lovely. And myrrh. Myrrh has healing properties and again smells beautiful. And traditionally, the 3 wise men have names: Melchior, Caspar and Balthazar. And they came from the east, and this is a nativity scene, and you might have one in your home. You might even have an advent calendar with this scene on. I've got one where I can put the people in place throughout the 24 days of Advent, which is the time that precedes Christmas Eve. So there we have our nativity. Now, how did these nativities come about? They're beautifully carved little wooden figures. Sometimes you get huge ones. Where I grew up as a little girl in a place called Swinton in Salford, they had a huge, almost life-size nativity outside our town hall in the garden there. And all the children used to walk past it, waiting to see which person would arrive, which character from the nativity would arrive that day. And there's a story about how these came about. And if you ever get a copy of this book, you'll find it in there. And it's about somebody called Brother Folion. Now, this was many, many years ago, a long time before everybody in Europe was a Christian. and Brother Folion was sent to take God's message of love to the people of Spain. He was quite unhappy because he'd never been to Spain before, and he found it very difficult getting the people to listen because they had their own gods at that time and they didn't really seem to want to hear about Brother Folion's God. So Brother Folion was very good at woodwork and he started carving. He carved sheep and ox and ass, and he carved lots of Marys, lots of Joseph, and lots of wise men. And as he carved them, the children would come to watch him in his workshop and they'd say, "Brother Folion, what's that figure?" And he would tell them all about them. And they asked, "Could we take them home?" And he said, no, I'm saving them. And he spent a whole year. And after a year, it was Christmas time. And where Brother Folion was based in Spain, he placed little nativity scenes like this all around the countryside, in the villages, wherever he travelled. I don't know if there were any big cities where he was, but he'd certainly have put one in there. And so the adults started asking, "Oh, what are these?" And of course, the children could tell them because they'd been listening to Brother Folion's stories. And so the adults in the area where Brother Folion was came to hear about this God of peace, and eventually Spain became a Christian country. So that's a legend from Spain. We're going to say a prayer now. Some of you might have heard this before, some of you might not, but your mums and dads, your grannies and granddads might know it, whoever's with you. And it's called the Lord's Prayer. And when we pray, we often put our hands together and we just sit still a moment and we say, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen." So what was this message of love that Jesus brought? It's difficult to explain sometimes, so I'm going to tell you a story. It's the story of Papa Panov. Now, Papa Panov lived in Eastern Europe, which is way past Poland and Germany and almost, well, part of Russia really. And in the winter, when it's Christmas, it's very snowy there. And this story is set quite some time ago, probably 200 to 100 years ago. And there was Papa Panov, who was a shoemaker, a cobbler by trade, and he was a lovely man, but he was getting on and he didn't make as many shoes these days because his fingers were old and gnarled. His wife had died, his children were grown up and they'd married and moved away, and it was Christmas Eve and he was on his own. And he was feeling a bit sad and lonely, so he thought, I'll read the Bible. I'll read the story of the first Christmas. And so he did. He sat down by his fire and he got his Bible out, sat in his chair, got comfortable and started reading. Well, it was quite late and it was nice and warm in Papa Panov's little cottage, and he fell asleep. And his dreams were of happy days with his wife and his family, and the children opening their presents on Christmas morning and the food they ate together. And he was just beginning to wake up when suddenly he had another dream, and there was a loving and gentle face in front of him. And the smile on the stranger's face was beautiful. And the stranger said, "I'm Jesus, Papa Panov, and I know who you are and what you dream of, and I know you're feeling sad and lonely, so I'm going to visit you today on Christmas Day. I promise I will be with you at some point in this day." And all of a sudden, Papa Panov woke up, and it was Christmas Day morning. And he remembered his dream and he thought, "Whoa, Jesus is coming to visit." And so he got up and tidied round and he put some coffee on the stove ready just in case. Well, he kept looking out the window and he couldn't see anybody there, and the snow was coming down when all of a sudden a figure came along the street, and Papa Panov opened his door and called to the person outside, "Hello, hello." And he saw it was Sergei. Sergei was the street sweeper, and he was even doing his job on Christmas Day, trying to clear the roads from too much snow for the people going to visit their families. "Oh, you look cold and tired," he said to Sergei. "Come on in and have a cup of coffee to warm you up." And so Sergei came in and had a cup of coffee with Papa Panov, and he held his hands round the mug to warm him up, and he smelt the steam, and it was lovely. But after he drank his coffee, he said to Papa Panov, "I must go now, I've still got to sweep more streets." So Papa Panov regretfully said goodbye, and off he went. Well, Papa Panov was still looking up and down the street then for Jesus to see if he would come and visit him that day. He saw nobody, so he went inside and he put a pot of cabbage soup on the stove, because people didn't have a lot of meat in these countries and they ate a lot of vegetables, and cabbage soup is one of their favourites. Might not be yours or mine though. Anyway, the soup was going nicely on the stove, and Papa Panov was looking out the window again, and he didn't see Jesus, but he saw a young girl stumbling up the street in the snow. She looked very cold and she was shaking so much, and she was clutching a bundle to her chest. And Papa Panov thought, "Oh, well, what should I do? Because I'm expecting Jesus." And then he thought, "No, I'll invite her in. She must need some food." So he called to the girl, come on in, come and get warm and come and get some food." And the girl very slowly came into Papa Panov's house. He sat her down and he tried to remove the bundle from her, but she wouldn't let it go, and all of a sudden there was a baby's cry. "Oh," she said, "my baby's hungry and I've nothing to feed him with." And Papa Panov said, "Don't you worry." And he put a pan of milk on the stove and he put some cabbage soup out for the girl. And so both the baby and the girl were fed. But he was looking at them and he was thinking, "Oh, that poor little baby, it's got no shoes." Now, Papa Panov had made a beautiful pair of shoes many years before his fingers got old and gnarled. And he'd put them up on a high shelf, and he looked at this shelf there and he thought, "But I'm saving those for the baby Jesus." But then he looked again at the baby's poor cold feet, and he took the box down from the shelf and handed them to the girl. And she said, "Oh, I can't take these." She said, "They're too fine for somebody like me." "Take them for the child then," he said, "because it's Christmas. Take them as a Christmas present." And so the girl and the baby went on their way, and the baby had a beautiful pair of shoes on his feet. Well, after they've gone, Papa Panoff tidied round and he was checking the soup on the stove and checking the window to see if he could see Jesus. But no, he didn't see them. So he sat down for a while. Then he kept on getting up to look out the window, and eventually he saw people coming down the street. And this was a group of homeless people. They were known as beggars. They had nowhere to live. And Papa Panoff was thinking, oh, well, I was saving the cabbage soup for Jesus. Surely Jesus would like cabbage soup. And you should always feed a guest. But he looked at these people and he thought, well, they're sort of companionable amongst themselves. They look like friends, but they do look hungry. So he called to them and he said, would you like to come in and have a warm and some cabbage soup? Oh, yes, please, said the beggars. And in they came to Papa Panoff's cottage, and he fed them all the soup. Well, by this time, when the beggars left and had said Merry Christmas to Papa Panoff, he sat down on his chair, got his old Bible out again, and he was thinking, well, Jesus never came. I wonder what I'm going to do. And I'm sure that dream promised he would come. I'm sure he was going to. When all of a sudden there was a light in the doorway, and there was Jesus. Jesus with his beautiful smile. And he was saying, well, I visited you today, Papa Panoff. And Papa Panoff says, when? He says, when you called in the sweeper and gave him a cup of coffee. And when you called in the young girl and a baby and fed them and clothed the baby's feet with shoes that were so beautiful. And he said, I was one of the beggars too that came in and had some marvellous cabbage soup with you. And Papa Panoff's face lit up with joy and he said, oh, thank you. And Jesus said, I leave you with my Christmas blessing of peace. And Papa Panoff was a happy man then until the end of his days. And that's the message that Jesus brought. Look after other people and you're doing God's will. You're passing that message of love and peace along when you help other people. Well, our time together is nearly ended now, and we're going to light our Christingle and sing Away in a Manger, and you'll see the words appear on the screen. So you get your adult to light, and I'll see if my super duper lighter will light it. It doesn't always want to behave, this lighter. Oh, it might take a few goes, this. I don't think my thumbs are working. I think they're getting a bit like Papa Panoff's. Oh. There we go. See, it does it eventually. So if you want to light your Christingle, make sure whoever's looking after you is keeping an eye on your candle to make sure it doesn't get anything burnt. So keep well away from it. Don't lean over it, okay? Hold it, and we'll sing the song together. We can blow our candles out now we've sung our song. You might want to put it on a window ledge somewhere at home and light it till later on tonight so that Santa Claus can see it when he comes. So I'm going to say goodbye now. It's been lovely to share the Christmas story with you, and I wish you all a very happy and a very peaceful Christmas and a healthy new year. Goodbye.